I'd like to say I walked into that bookstore for the novels, but truthfully, I just wanted quiet. The kind of quiet that doesn't demand anything from you. The rain outside had chased most people away, leaving the aisles half-lit, smelling of paper and dust. She was behind the counter, sorting through a stack of hardcovers like they were alive, like each one deserved her full attention. A woman who looked like she'd seen storms before and wasn't afraid of them. Mid-40s, maybe, dark hair pulled back, strands falling loose when she bent down. I should have kept walking, should have just found my corner and disappeared. But I didn't. When our eyes met for the first time, it wasn't cinematic. It was inconvenient. I froze halfway to the shelf, pretending to scan titles. She raised a brow, just slightly, like she could see through me. "You're dripping on the floor," she said, pointing to the trail of rainwater my jacket had left behind. "I guess I brought the storm in," I muttered. "Too quick. Too awkward." She smirked. "That's dangerous in here. Books don't forgive water stains." The word dangerous lingered longer than it should have. I tried to laugh it off, but something in her tone. It wasn't just about the floor. I don't know why I walked closer. Maybe it was her voice, low, steady, like it knew more than it shared. Maybe it was the way she didn't look away first. She was the kind of person who measured silence, let it weigh on you until you had to say something. I leaned an elbow on the counter, pretending confidence I didn't feel. "Then why are you leaning in?" Her lips parted just slightly. For a second, she didn't answer. She just stared, long enough for me to realize I'd stepped somewhere I wasn't supposed to. Then she tilted her head, almost amused, and pushed the stack of books between us like a barrier. "I lean in when I'm deciding," she said. "Deciding what?" She didn't explain. The phone on the counter rang then, and she picked it up, her voice shifting into something polite, professional. I stood there, not moving, listening to her tone as if I'd find an answer buried in the spaces between her words. When she hung up, she acted like the moment had passed. She went back to stacking, humming faintly under her breath. I told myself to leave, to stop reading into things. But my feet wouldn't move. I reached for the nearest book, pretending to browse. She caught me flipping it upside down. "You don't even know what you're holding," she said, half teasing, half challenging. She was right, I didn't. But that wasn't the point. The point was the way her fingers brushed mine when she corrected the book's angle. Just a graze, light enough to be accidental, heavy enough to stay with me. I said something dumb after that. Can't even remember what. She just smiled, small, private, as if she already knew how much space she'd take up in my head. That night, I kept replaying her voice in my head, like I missed something, or maybe wanted something. The next afternoon, I found myself back at the bookstore. I told myself it was because I needed a book for class, but I knew better. The rain had cleared, leaving the streets washed in sunlight, and yet the quiet inside that shop pulled me in harder than the weather ever could. She was there again. Same counter, different stack of books. When she looked up, it wasn't surprise I saw, it was recognition. Like she'd already expected me. "You again," she said. Not unkind. Not warm either. Just balanced. Like she was weighing what my presence meant. I shrugged. "Guess I'm dangerous for business." She gave a short laugh. The kind that ends quickly, as though she'd cut it off before it could become real. "You don't even know," she said under her breath. I pretended not to hear, but those words rooted deep. I wanted to ask, "Know what?" But something told me not to press. Instead, I offered to help carry the box she was struggling with. It was heavier than it looked, and when I set it down on the back table, I caught the way her shoulders sagged with relief. That small glimpse of her not in control, not composed, felt strangely intimate. "Thanks," she said, brushing her hair back. "I usually manage on my own." "You don't have to," I answered before I could stop myself. Her eyes flicked up at that. Sharp, assessing. She didn't say anything right away, just kept her gaze on me longer than was comfortable. There it was again, the sense that I had crossed into territory I wasn't supposed to. Like I'd stepped past a line she'd drawn for everyone else. "I'm not sure you understand," she said finally, softer now. "This isn't the kind of place people linger unless they're hiding from something." She meant it casually, maybe even as a joke, but my chest tightened anyway. Because she was right. I was hiding. From noise, from expectations, from the constant pressure of being young and supposed to have everything figured out. "What about you?" I asked, quieter than I intended. Her hands stilled on the edge of the table. For a moment I thought she wouldn't answer. Then, almost reluctantly, "Sometimes the books listen better than people." That was it, just that, but it cracked something open. I saw her differently then, not as the untouchable woman behind the counter, but as someone holding her own storms close, keeping them where no one else could see. I wanted to say something. "I'll listen, maybe," but the words stayed locked in my throat. Instead, I nodded like it was enough. She moved past me, close enough that her sleeve brushed my arm, close enough that the air shifted between us. "Stay a little longer," she said, not looking at me this time. "I could use another pair of hands." It was a simple request, practical on the surface. But the way her fingers touched my forearm, light, deliberate, said something else entirely. And I almost answered with something I shouldn't have. By the third time I returned, I stopped lying to myself. It wasn't about the books anymore. It was her. The way she carried herself like she didn't need anyone, but still let a piece of her guard slip when she thought no one noticed. That day, the shop was empty except for us. The late afternoon light slanted through the blinds, striping the floor in uneven gold. She was kneeling on a small step stool, reaching for the top shelf, when the edge wobbled beneath her. Instinct moved faster than thought. I steadied her waist with both hands, just long enough to keep her balanced, just long enough to feel the warmth of her through the fabric of her sweater. "Careful," I said, voice lower than I meant it to be. She looked down at me, not startled, almost too calm. Her breath slowed, and I realized my hands were still there, holding her as if I didn't want to let go. When she stepped down, she didn't move away right away. Her shoulder brushed mine, her gaze flicked to my mouth for half a second, just long enough to make me question if I imagined it. I pulled back first, mumbling something about how cheap the stool looked. Her laugh was quiet, almost a sigh. "You're not as careful as you think you are." The air thickened between us, charged with something neither of us had named yet. I wanted to tell her that I noticed the way she hummed when she sorted books, the way her thumb tapped against her thigh when she was thinking, the way she sometimes looked tired in a way that had nothing to do with work. But instead, I stayed silent, gripping the edge of a table like it could anchor me. That's when her phone buzzed. She answered quickly, her voice slipping into something clipped, formal. I couldn't hear the words, just the tone, strained, defensive. When she hung up, she caught me watching. "Ex-husband," she said simply, before I could ask. A flicker of something passed over her face. Bitterness, maybe regret. But then she straightened, smoothing her hair like she hadn't revealed anything at all. I wanted to step in, say something to make it easier, but she cut me off with a look that said, "Don't." So I tried to pull back. I told myself to grab a book and leave, to stop looking for meaning in the way she lingered when she didn't have to. But when she brushed past me again, the back of her hand grazed mine. Light, deliberate, unmistakable. I froze. She stopped at the door, resting her palm against the frame. "You should go before it gets dark," she said. But her voice didn't sound like dismissal. It sounded like a dare. I stood there, caught between the urge to walk out and the pull to close the distance. And in that silence, the only question left was whether we were about to cross a line neither of us could take back. The storm came back 2 nights later. Thunder pressed low against the sky, rain streaked the shop's windows, and the bell above the door stayed quiet. No customers, no interruptions. Just her and me. She was at the counter again, this time leaning against it instead of working. Her hair was loose, framing her face, and for once she didn't look composed. She looked tired. Human. You keep showing up, she said softly, not accusing, almost curious. Maybe I like the company, I answered, though it came out too fast, too thin. She tilted her head, eyes narrowing like she could see right through the words I didn't say. You shouldn't. Something about the way she said it, quiet, firm, almost pleading, knocked the air out of me. I should have backed off then, should have laughed it away. Instead, I stepped closer. Why not? Her jaw tightened. Because I don't need this complication. I don't need, she trailed off, shaking her head, fingers tapping the wood of the counter like she needed something to do with her hands. I wanted to reach across, steady them, tell her I wasn't here to make her life harder. But the truth was, I didn't even know what I wanted. All I knew was the pull, like gravity, every time she looked at me. Tell me to stop coming, I said finally. And I will. Her eyes shot up at that. For a moment, the silence roared louder than the thunder outside. Then she whispered, You don't make it easy. The words hit harder than I expected. My chest tightened, and before I could think better of it, I leaned forward, lowering my voice. Neither do you. That was when the air between us snapped. Her hand moved first, resting on the counter, then inching closer until her fingers brushed mine. Not accidental this time, not hesitation. A choice. I froze, caught between every reason to pull away and every instinct screaming not to. You're too young, she said, though it sounded more like she was trying to convince herself than me. I swallowed hard. And you're too? She didn't finish the sentence. Neither did I. The storm outside cracked, lightning spilling through the window, and for a moment it felt like the whole room leaned into that pause. Her eyes locked on mine, steady, unblinking. There was no joke left to cover with, no book to hide behind, no excuse that made sense anymore. Tell me, I said, voice rougher than I meant. Do you really want me to stop? Her lips parted, a breath caught in her throat. But no answer came. Just the silence, the kind that said everything words couldn't. And in that silence, I realized the next move would change everything. The next day, I told myself I wouldn't go back. That the storm had made things feel more intense than they were. That it was better to leave everything in that charged silence. But by late afternoon, I was standing outside the shop again, palms sweating in my jacket pockets. She wasn't at the counter this time. I heard her in the back, her voice low and steady, carrying through the thin door. I thought she was on the phone again, until I caught the edge of my own name. I froze. He keeps coming here, she was saying. Too often. It's starting to feel like a problem. My stomach dropped. Problem. That was me. The door creaked as I shifted, and she came out before I could move away. Her eyes widened when she saw me. Caught, like she hadn't expected me to hear. We just stared at each other. The silence stretched. I wanted to demand an explanation, but my throat was dry, my chest heavy. Finally, she spoke. It wasn't what it sounded like, but it had sounded exactly like rejection. Exactly like regret. I forced a laugh, sharp and brittle. Then what was it? She stepped closer, her voice low. I was talking to my sister. She worries. She thinks I get too close to things I shouldn't. Her words landed like a second blow, because she wasn't denying it. She was too close. We both were. I don't want you to think I'm... She stopped, biting down on the sentence. Her hand pressed against the counter as if she needed the support. You make me forget myself, she admitted, almost broken. That rawness, honest, stripped of her usual control, hit harder than her earlier words. I wanted to step toward her, to tell her I wasn't afraid of being her mistake. But before I could, the bell above the door rang. A man walked in, older, gray at the temples, his presence heavy. He didn't even look at me first. His eyes went straight to her. Still here, he muttered. His tone made it sound like an accusation. Her whole body stiffened. Not now, she said through clenched teeth. I didn't need an introduction to know who he was. The ex-husband. He looked me over then, dismissive, like I wasn't worth his time. Figures, he said. You always did pick strays. Heat flared up my neck, but I bit my tongue. This wasn't my fight. Not yet. She stepped between us, her hand lifted in a small but firm barrier. You should go, she told him, steady despite the tremor in her jaw. The man smirked, muttered something under his breath, and finally left. The bell jangled behind him, leaving the shop in weighted silence again. She didn't look at me right away. When she did, her eyes were glassy, vulnerable in a way I hadn't seen before. I didn't want you to know me like this, she whispered. And suddenly, the danger wasn't about crossing a line anymore. It was about what happened if I did, and what it might cost her. The shop felt smaller after he left. The air hung heavy, the scent of rain clinging to the open door, the silence sharp between us. She leaned against the counter, rubbing her temple with the heel of her hand like she could press the moment away. I shouldn't have let you see that, she said finally, her voice frayed. I stepped closer. Why not? It's real. Her eyes flicked up at me, a flash of resistance before softening. Real isn't always good. I shook my head, words spilling faster than I meant them to. But it's honest. You don't have to keep every wall up. Not with me. She laughed under her breath. Tired, shaky. You don't understand. I've spent years keeping myself together. Every time I let someone in, it costs me. I didn't move closer, but my voice did. And maybe that's why you're still here, alone in this place, talking to books instead of people. Her lips parted, ready to fire back, but the words caught. She stared at me like she hated that I was right. For a long moment, neither of us spoke. I could hear the storm outside breaking apart, the drizzle softening against the glass. Then she said it, quiet, almost broken. You make me feel seen, and that terrifies me. That confession cracked something in me. My chest tightened, my throat dry. I'd wanted to hear those words, but now that I didn't know what to do with them. I moved closer, just one step, and my hand hovered before I finally let it rest over hers on the counter. You terrify me too, I admitted. But I don't want to stop. Her hand trembled beneath mine, but she didn't pull away. Instead, her fingers curled slightly, gripping me back. You're too young, she whispered again, almost desperate. And you're too guarded, I answered. Her laugh was choked this time, but it wasn't bitter. It was something else, something softer, surrendering. We stood like that, hands clasped in the half-light, the air thick with everything unspoken. My heart pounded, waiting for her to let go, waiting for her to draw the line again. But she didn't. Instead, she lifted her gaze, steady and raw. If we do this, there's no going back. I swallowed hard, meeting her stare. Then let's not go back. The silence after wasn't empty, it was full. Her breathing, my pulse, the faint hum of the rain. And though no kiss came, no perfect movie ending, the weight of her hand in mine was enough to tell me we had already crossed the line. It wasn't flawless. It wasn't safe. But it was real. And for the first time, neither of us tried to take it back. The days after that storm felt different. I still went to the shop, but it wasn't the same awkward dance of pretending to browse or making excuses to stay. The pretense was gone. Now, when I walked through that door, she didn't just look up. She waited. She never said the words outright, but something in her softened. The way she let the silence stretch without cutting it down. The way she let her shoulder brush mine when we worked side by side. The way she didn't pull her hand away when I steadied hers while passing a heavy box. Small things, ordinary things, but they carried weight now, the kind that no one else would notice. We never talked about her ex again, though I caught the way her expression faltered every time her phone buzzed. Once, I asked if she wanted me to stay later, just in case. She looked at me for a long moment before saying, "You make the noise feel far away." That was all. But it was enough. As for me, I stopped pretending I didn't know why I kept coming back. It wasn't the books, or the quiet, or the storms outside. It was her. The woman who told me I was dangerous, when the truth was, she was the dangerous one because she saw me in a way no one else did. We never had a neat declaration. No perfectly timed kiss under the rain. What we had was raw, imperfect, sometimes jagged. But when I left each night, I caught myself smiling at nothing, my chest lighter than it had been in years. One evening, as she was locking up, she turned to me with a look I'll never forget. Not guarded, not uncertain, just real. "You know this isn't simple," she said. I nodded. Good things rarely are. That made her laugh. Not the short, careful laugh she used to hide behind. A real one. And in that moment, I knew whatever this was, however long it lasted, it mattered. I had walked in that first day looking for quiet. What I found was someone who made me feel like I wasn't invisible. Someone who made me seen. And sometimes that's enough. Studio microphone viewer engagement outro. That was the story of how one unexpected encounter blurred every line I thought I understood. It wasn't perfect, it wasn't easy, but it was real. Did you enjoy the story? What kind of stories would you like to hear next?